start recording the session, and I can send anyone a copy of it who needs it, who wants it after the training session is over. So, like I said, I'm going to start off by going over definitions. Definitions are very big in understanding Razor's Edge and kind of how it works. And I think a lot of people feel like what goes into a certain field is up for debate. And in some cases, that might be true. But in reality, a programmer built the program and they built it with a certain input in mind that connects to a certain output. If you've ever met a computer programmer, they're not exactly flexible, shall we say. They're pretty rigid and they have kind of a specific idea of what needs to go someplace. So really understanding how to use Razor's Edge is understanding the connection between input and output. We need to put this here because it's going to plug out into things here, here, and here. And the more you want to use Razor's Edge the way that it's built, the simpler it is. And the easier it is going to be to get a lot of things that you want out of the system without having to build a lot of queries or things to be able to get them. In fact, during this class, I'm going to give you a definition of what a query is as well, because I think it's something that people confuse a lot with what is a report and what is a dashboard. So we're going to start off with the definition of what is a report versus what is a dashboard. In reality, both a report and a dashboard are analytical tools. They are the same thing. They are the reporting feature of Razor's Edge. They are how you analyze the information that's in your system. The difference between the two of them is that dashboards is a snapshot of current information. It is an overview of where it is that you are right now. They are easy to build. They are easy to read and view. They're very clean. And they have the ability to drill down, which means that you can click on something and drill down into your system at the same time that you are analyzing them. The weakness of a dashboard is that there aren't nearly as many dashboards as there are reports, so you're limited in what it is that you can see, and also in that date ranges. It's looking mostly at current information. It doesn't have the ability to let you select specific date ranges the way that a report does. So its main limitations is the way that is the date range and what it's letting you select, and that there are not as many of us. I'm on. Are you showing us the things on the main page? Yes. Right now, I'm just giving you a definition of what they are. So all we're seeing is the main dashboard page. Can everyone see my mouse moving just to make sure we're all on the same page here? Okay, so that is what a dashboard is. Okay, great. And a report, there are a lot more reports than there are dashboards. So there's a lot of different reports, and reports can be manipulated in a lot of different ways to give you specifically what it is that you need to see. But when you look at a report, there's not much that you can do other than look at it, maybe export it into Excel or Word, but it doesn't allow you to work in it at the same time that you are viewing it. So they're limited in what you can see. They're a bit more flexible in that you can kind of sometimes manipulate which fields it is that you're looking at. But for the most part, my preference personally is if I have a choice between looking at a report or a dashboard, I always look at a dashboard. I just find them really clean, really easy to read. I like that they're refreshable on a main page and they're kind of all together. So I definitely am a big fan of the dashboards, and hopefully it's one of those parts of the program that they're always going to be improving and adding things to as they go along, since they're once people know how to use them, a pretty popular part of the program. Can I just see a show of hands of how many of you are using dashboards currently? Okay, good. There are a few of you that are using them. Polly, you had them. Yours keep getting deleted for some reason. Okay. All right. Okay, so we've got, so that's a definition of what is a report and what is a dashboard. Let me give you a definition of a query, because what I find as a trainer is that when it comes to Razor's Edge, people are using queries in a way that they weren't intended to be used. In other programs, a query is sometimes your end result. It is the report or the dashboard that you're working on, or it's a way to create a mailing list. It's all of those different things. But in Razor's Edge, a query is nothing more than a grouping tool. It's how you go from everybody in your database to specific groups of people. So it's a way of grouping people into the system. But it's the who people are. It's not the how it is that you're using them. So a query is not a mailing list or a report. A mailing list is who you're mailing to or who you're reporting on, but they're not how you mail to them or how you report on them. A query is what I call dirty data. It includes absolutely everything. And you'll have to build in all of the things that you need. In a lot of cases, we're building in more than we need to, because if we just simply ran those parts, those queries through a mail part of the program, like quick letters to create a mailing list, or reports and dashboards to analyze information, it cleans, filters that information, and then presents it to you in a way that's easy to read and understand. So we're going to go through some of that in the class. But what I want to kind of show you during this class is how much we're able to build and analyze without ever having to build a query. Can I see a show of hands of how many of you guys are querying a lot? Just a whole lot in your database. Maybe querying for things that you want to see or people that you want to mail to or to create mailing lists. Okay, so quite a few of you are as well. All right, so we're going to start off by creating a dashboard. My new dashboard is going to look at a capital campaign. For those of you that aren't in the midst of a capital campaign or it's not something that's going to be happening, then think of this as major giving, because capital campaigns have that in common, is that they tend to look at major gifts and pledges, and it's your ability to kind of keep on top of how it is that you're doing on those things. So I'm going to start off here by hitting new. Now, when you create a new dashboard in Razor's Edge, it's very important that you give that dashboard a name, because one of the cool features of dashboards is that it can be shared with other people in your organization that have rights to be able to access Razor's Edge. But if you don't give it a name, then it's going to allow you to save that dashboard as new dashboard over and over and over again. So when you go to share it, and they go to select the dashboard that they want to share, all they're going to see is like 15 dashboards called new dashboards, and they will have no idea which one is yours. So you want to make sure that you're giving it a name, and we're going to call it a capital campaign dashboard. And we're going to start off by building one that is a summary. So campaign summary here. Just to give you a definition of what a campaign is in Razor's Edge. Campaign is your ability to report on big level numbers. So, and this isn't the same for anyone because they can be a little flexible, but for the most part, it's your ability to report on big level numbers. If we were to take your development office and divide it into the main areas that you report against goal, either internally or to your board, then those areas are usually something like annual giving, special events, major gifts. Sometimes planned giving is a separate one, and capital campaign could be another one. Sometimes when a capital campaign is on, major gifts disappears and everything goes towards that. But those are primarily your big buckets, and it is all money counts towards one of those areas. It's your ability to report on those. So we're going to create a summary here that's going to look at how it is that you're doing on your capital campaign. So we double clicked on the word capital campaign, or you can hit add to move it from the left to the right. And then once it's here, I can double click on it here to open it, or hit edit. Okay. Once it opens up, I'm going to give this dashboard, and the dashboard is really an individual report. So the dashboard itself is kind of like an umbrella. This is holding together all of the reports that I'm creating about the capital campaign. And every panel in this dashboard is analyzing the capital campaign in a different way. So I'm bringing this one over, and I'm calling it the capital campaign summary. And I'm going to ask to see this information as both a table and a graph. And under campaigns to include, I'm going to hit select. And I'm going to say, show me information for the capital campaign. Okay. Over here where it says gift types to include, we're going to select the type of money that we want to be able to see. Now, in a lot of reports in Raiser's Edge, you want to be careful that if you're looking at pledges, you're either looking at pledges or you're looking at pledge payments, because in some reports, if you choose both, it will double count. It will show you the $10,000 pledge that somebody gave and the $2,000 that they gave, that they've paid towards it so far. So in certain reports, you want to make sure that you're picking one or the other. Whenever you're in a summary dashboard, summaries are smart enough to separate that money into two separate columns if you include both. So here we're okay with checking them both the pledges and the pledge payments. Pledge payments everywhere else in Raiser's Edge are called pay cashes, which means a payment towards a pledge. So it's really nice of them to change the vocabulary, in one place of the program, not make it consistent all the way through so that people have no idea what you're talking about. But a pledge payment is a pay cash. They are the same thing. When you're looking at your gift types to include, you want to look to see whether or not you want to include gift in kind in this report, and also if you have any money that's being tracked as other, and if so, you want to decide whether you want to look at that money in this report or not look at that money, and you say okay. Now, I'm not going to choose a date range because for campaigns, usually they don't have dates associated with them, and the campaign itself is the umbrella for when it's going on. So if I include all dates and the capital campaign is going on over 4 years, then this is the total for how well I'm doing against that campaign since its inception. Columns to show, I'm going to hit select. I always hit select on columns to show just to see what my other options are, and I'm going to choose to see all of them. I'm going to hit check all and hit OK, and then OK again at the bottom. Then OK one more time to run it, and it's going to load that dashboard panel. Now, every dashboard panel has these 3 buttons up at the top. The first one here is looking at your properties. So this will let you go back into that dashboard panel and adjust anything that we have seen, that we've just set up. Then you can also copy the graph or the table down here to a clipboard and paste them into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, any other program that you want to. You can refresh an individual panel as opposed to the dashboard as a whole. You can print this panel as an individual report. Now, I'm not a big fan of the print feature because unless they fixed it, and to my knowledge they haven't so far, it tends to print it really small and weird in the middle of a page. So I'm a much bigger fan of copying both the table and a graph into a clipboard, pasting it into Word, and when you paste it into Word, it looks like exactly like it's supposed to look, normal sized, and you can print it from there. This is also the only part in Raiser's Edge where you can send something directly as an email right from here without having to export it first. This is if you have Outlook as your primary email program in Raiser's Edge. You can do that right from here. The second button here is going to zoom this panel to the full size of the screen. And then this button here will minimize it so I can see it at the regular size again. This one here will expand it horizontally, and then this one will minimize it again. So I'm going to start off by zooming this panel so we can see it full size and show you, this is going to show you your total given versus the goal for that capital campaign. And it's going to show you the campaign, the goal, the amount received, the variance between the two, the number of donors, the number of gifts, the average gift given, and the total amount committed. So you'll see that this is the amount that we've received so far. So this is looking at payments towards pledges and any cash that's been received. Where this is showing me the amount that's been committed or promised. It's showing me the amount that's been pledged plus any cash that's been received, not payments towards pledges. So this is how much we have committed, and this is the amount of committed that's been received so far. If you have any questions at all, you can just type it into the chat part, and I can unmute you, and you can ask your question, or you can just ask the question directly into the chat part there. Any questions about this report that we've created so far? So I'm going to minimize this panel, and I'm going to hit Customize. Customize is where you're going to go in and edit an existing dashboard. So I'm going to edit it so that I can add another report to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to bring over a recent gift list. This is a really good one for major gifts in general, which capital campaigns tend to look at. Or they're really good. It's a really good report just to look if you want another set of eyes looking at gifts as they come into the system. So I double clicked on here or hit add to move it over from the left to the right. I'm going to double click on it. A recent gift list is going to show you a list of gifts that have come in within a specific period of time, more likely recent ones that have come in. And it's really good for having a double check to look at what's coming into the system. And if you're a major gifts officer, I check it for a couple of things. I check it to see whether when I see a gift that's come in that I know that I'm responsible for, I want to double check that gift to make sure that I'm the solicitor that's been added on to that gift. That's important because unless I'm added as the solicitor on to the gift, then my reports analyzing how successful I was aren't going to show up properly, and I'm not getting full credit for the gifts that I've received. I also want to double check a lot of times to see if I have the prospect module, whether this gift has been connected to the proposal that helped raise it, so that again they flow into those reports that I run correctly. So here I'm going to give it a name, and I'm just going to call it Recent Gifts to Capital Campaign. And I'm going to ask for gifts that have come in this fiscal year. Okay. And I am going to ask to see soft credits because a lot of people give through their companies, and I might not recognize the company name, but I'd recognize the individual that was being soft credited for it. So I want to be able to see that. Gift types to include. In this case, I probably want to see everything. Now, if I include pledges and payment pledges, then the bottom of the report, which is showing me the total amount that was given, is going to be inaccurate. So I am going to include all of these because I'm not using this as a report to report on totals amount received. I'm using this report as an overview to see what it is that's come in. And so I want to see pledges and payments towards pledges. And so you want to disregard the total at the bottom. Okay, campaigns to include, I'm going to hit select. And I'm going to choose capital and say OK. Then I'm going to go down here to my columns to show, and I'm going to hit select. And I'm going to hit check all. And then say OK again, OK again, and then OK again to load it. Okay, so when I zoom this one up, it's going to show me any gifts made to the capital campaign. So this is showing me the original donor, the amount, the top constituency code on that person's record, the gift type, the campaign, the fund, the appeal, and the payment method. Okay, so just a word about some of the things it is that it's showing you here. First of all, whenever you see something that it's hyperlinked in blue like this, it means that you can drill down into that person's record. So if I click on a person's name, it will drill down into their record. This is really good. If I'm monitoring gifts to come in that are over a certain amount, it allows me to click on it, drill down into their record, and generate a personalized thank you letter or send an email. So it's going down into her record. If she had an email address, I could send an email from here. If I wanted to send a personalized thank you letter, I could do it directly from here. If I wanted to look for a phone number so I could make a thank you phone call, then I could do that from here. So it's easy access directly into the person's record who just gave. If I click onto the date, it opens up the gift itself. Here is where I can double check to see who the solicitor is on the gift. And if it's connected to a proposal or a registration for an event or a membership, I would be able to see those little icons right here. So at a glance, I know if the icons are there, it's connected to an event, connected to a proposal, connected to a membership. And if those icons aren't there, then it hasn't been connected to those things. So I know that I can either flag it so that somebody can go in and make that correction, or I can make the correction myself if I have the rights to be able to do that right from here. This is also, I'm just going to hit customize to go back into that panel. One of the only reports in all of Razor's Edge that allows you to filter by an amount right within the report itself. So one of the things that it's asking us here is whether or not we want to show gifts that are less than a certain amount. So if you only want to see gifts, say you're only responsible for gifts over $1,000, if you only want to see gifts over $1,000, then you would type in 1,000 here, and when you load it, it would filter by that amount. Okay, now just a word about this right here, this constituency code, that I think is important, because when we run dashboards and reports, this constituency code is showing up more and more often. And when people look at it, it's not showing what they expect, and a lot of times they're not exactly sure why it's not showing up as they expect it to. And let me explain why that is. Let me just see, who can I open up? Yeah, I'll open up her. I'm not sure how she's coded, because again, it's a sample database. My sample database has all nerds and hockey players in it, because I'm Canadian and a nerd. So, all right, so we're in someone's record here. And if I go to the bio tab number 2, then here is where their constituency codes live. Let me just give you an example. If she was both a volunteer and, remove that, if she was both a volunteer and a board member, okay, then what's happening is that if this was the way that it was entered in, then these would be entered in incorrectly, because board member, the way that you enter constituency codes into Razor's Edge is a hierarchy, which means that the top constituency code on someone's record, their most important relationship to you, has to be the top constituency code on someone's record. Why? Because without you even knowing that it's doing it, and it does it every single time automatically, whenever it is that you go to enter in a gift, the top constituency code on someone's record automatically defaults onto the gift as the gift constituency, which means that here on the miscellaneous tab, there is your gift constituency. And the only options that appear there are here. Okay. And because, well, when we entered in the volunteer, her volunteer had an end date, which is why it wasn't showing up. But if it hadn't, then volunteer would be showing up here. And if she was both a volunteer and a board member, that's why it is that it would be showing up incorrectly. So just a couple things about the constituency codes. First of all, you have to make sure that they're in the right order. Okay. And the second thing is, don't use the date froms and the date tos. The date tos are a nightmare. As you can see, they end a relationship. And when you end the relationship, instead of coding the gift the way that it's supposed to, it just ignores it completely or moves down to the one that is the bottom one. So what that means is that you have to make sure that when you're entering in board members and volunteers, you're tracking whether they're current or whether they're former. The date twos will eliminate people from reports that you don't want them to, and eliminate the gifts from being coded in a way that you don't want to. This field does a bunch of funky things that we don't know that it's doing, and it leads to problems in our reporting. So let me just go over one other thing as well. When you're running a report and someone asks a question like, how many board members gave last year as opposed to board members that gave this year, you can't pull that information from here, because people who were board members last year aren't necessarily board members this year. That's a report that comes from the gift constituency, because the constituency code that's on the gift doesn't change. It stays exactly the same as at the time they gave it. So when we run a report by gift constituency, that's how you run a report, comparing how many board members gave this year as opposed to gave last year, how many current parents gave this year as opposed to gave last year. So that's the kind of coding that facilitates that and your ability to run that. This report here, when you run a report by constituency code here, this gives you, say, if Lauren here gave $1,000 last year, and you ran a report by constituency code, then her $1,000 would show up under board member and would show up under volunteers. So when you run a report by constituency code, the giving shows up next to every constituency code they have. Whereas when you run a report by gift constituency, it shows up under the constituency code that's marked on the gift. that gift is being credited only once under that constituency code that they're at. So again, recoding the constituency codes on the bio 2 does not change how the gifts were coded. So if you've got any cleanup that you want to be able to do, you have to do those on the gift themselves under the miscellaneous tab part of it. So just wanted to go over that because like I said, there's a connection between input and output, and that's part of it. And unless we understand what input is doing what and how it's outputting here, then we just look at this report and it looks wrong, and we don't understand why it looks wrong. So that's just kind of an understanding of what that is. Any questions about those constituency codes and the gift constituencies? Anything about that at all? Okay, so this is a recent gift list, and I'm going to minimize this one here. So now we have a summary and we have a recent gift list, and I'm going to hit customize again, and I'm going to add an additional panel. This time I'm going to add from the gift section one called overdue gift list right here. I'm going to double click on it to open it, and I'm going to call it overdue gifts to the capital campaign. Okay, and I'm going to go to campaign and hit select and bring over capital and say okay. And then I'm going to go to columns to show and hit select and check all of these just so I can see everything. There's an option. So what this report is doing, and I think it's a really important one, it's a really great dashboard to use whenever you're dealing with any kind of pledges, whether it's for a capital campaign or whether it's for anything else. If I had not choose capital campaign, it would show me all my overdue pledges, period. Not related to anything specific, but just any overdue pledge that we have in the system. Now, I use this dashboard to keep on track of where my pledges are, and is a really good kind of check and balance. Because here's what it shows me. It shows me the constituent name, the date, which will drill down into, this drills down into the constituent's record. This drills down into the original pledge, which is great for a cleanup because I can adjust someone's schedule, or I can write off a pledge directly from within the dashboard. This is why I love dashboards, because it allows you to work in them at the same time that you're looking at them. So this is the amount of the pledge, the amount that's currently past due, when, if any, the last payment was made, and when the last reminder was sent. So a little bit about the input and the output here. There is a part of the program in Mail, and again, we need to be using Mail to generate mail. Mailing lists, either whether they're going to a print house or whether you're doing them internally. So mailing lists for annual report, direct mail, special events, your all of the different lists that you're creating, they need to be generated through Mail. Your reminders for pledges can also be generated through the Mail part of the program, through the part called Reminders. And the great thing about that is that it will, at a click of a button, let you or generate a reminder letter for anybody who has a reminder that's, or for anybody who has a payment that is upcoming. So it's a reminder letter for a pledge payment that is upcoming. Once it sends that letter, it's going to track on the gift itself when that reminder was sent. And that's what fills in here. Because a lot of times if I'm going and I'm analyzing a report, I look at something like this and I want to know why they're not giving. Are they not giving because I've forgotten, or for some reason the system has not generated the reminder that would have triggered them to give? Or are they not giving because I've sent it and they're just not giving, which means I need to follow up with a phone call or something else. But this helps things not fall between the cracks. It lets me keep on top of what's being generated and what's not being generated, because too many times the reminder letters, if they're not being tracked through pledges, and if we're not using the reminders part of the program to generate those reminders, it's being done on some kind of manual system, and those are way too easy to forget to send those reminder letters out, and that's why it is that people aren't giving. And we realize that too late, sometimes when more than one payment is past due. So this is a really good way of keeping on top of who they are and how much is past due. Once a payment is made, they will disappear from this report. So it's always only showing you people who are currently past due. That being said, whenever you're in a dashboard, you need to remember to hit refresh a lot. Like, you have to hit refresh a lot, because unless you hit refresh, it is showing you old information. And this is a big clue right here, because this tells you the last time that it was run. When you go into a dashboard, sometimes it looks like it's flickering, which would lead you to believe that it has refreshed, but it has not refreshed unless you manually hit this refresh button. So I'm going to say it again, hit refresh a lot, especially if you are at an organization where they're doing gift entry all day. So hit refresh a lot. I'm going to minimize this part here. And that is my overdue gift list. Any questions about any of the reports that we've built so far, any of these overdue, anything at all? Okay. I'm going to hit customize again, and I'm going to bring over yet another dashboard. This is one of my favorite ones. It's called an expected gift summary. This is one of my favorite ones because I think it's something that no one knows they can get from Raiser's Edge. But whenever you're dealing with pledges, and whenever you're dealing with payments towards pledges, a capital campaign, it's something that you get asked by your board and finance a lot. And I don't think that we know that you can easily generate this report from here. And because we don't know that, we're doing a lot of work in Excel that we don't necessarily need to be doing. So I double clicked on expected gift summary, or hit add to move it over from the left to the right, double click on it again to open it up. And here I'm going to call it expected gifts to capital campaign. Total by, I want it broken down by fiscal year, but later I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's broken down by month as well, because again, what I love about the reports is that you can use them in a bunch of different ways, depending on what your job is and depending on what it is that you need to see. So again, if I was reporting to finance, then this is probably the report that I would run. Broken down by total by fiscal year, broken down by the very last option, constituent. Campaign, select, capital. And then I'm going to run it. I'm going to hit OK, and then OK again to load it. Okay, I'm going to zoom that one. So this is showing me a forecasting report. It's showing me everybody who has pledge for the capital campaign, how much expected we have to come in each of the upcoming fiscal years from those pledges, the total amount of expected revenue per person, and then the total amount of expected revenue per fiscal year. So again, this is a really great report and something that we are doing a lot of work in Excel to recreate, when all we would have to do is hit refresh here. And it's constantly going to update and refresh itself. So this is one of my favorite ones here. I'm going to hit customize, and I'm going to show you what this looks like when you break it down by month, because again, sometimes I just want to see a report of who should I be issuing a reminder for this month, and making sure that the right group of people are showing up on that. So if I hit customize and go back into this one here and change it from fiscal year to month, then instead it's showing me who has pledge payments that are due in September, October, November. So I know exactly how many reminders the system should be generating for each of those upcoming months. And again, as I hit refresh, any new ones that get entered will be refreshed and added into the system. Okay. So that is an expected gift summary. Any questions about that or any of the ones that we've created so far that deal with kind of pledges and major gifts and payments towards pledges? Okay, so I'm gonna now build a different type of, this one looked at capital campaigns, major gifts. I'm now gonna build another dashboard that is looking primarily at annual giving, one of the other big areas that we report on. So first of all, I just kind of want to point out, we've built 1, 2, 3, 4 reports so far. And how many queries have we built? 0, right? So now we're going to build a whole bunch of other dashboards, and I want to show you how many queries we're going to build them. Again, 0. So if your coding is improperly, then we really do query very little in a much more simplified way within Razor's Edge, and we'll still be able to get the answers that we want consistently. So I'm going to hit New, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to make sure that I give this new one a name, and I'm going to call it Annual Giving Dashboard. Okay. Now, annual giving, just a word about annual giving, because Blackbaud's terminology leads to a lot of confusion in the way things are coded. And again, if it was a Blackbaud, if it was an organization issue, and this was something that only your organization was doing incorrectly, if it's something that you're not doing right, then it would be the only time I've ever seen it. But these are things that I see happen every single place that I go to, which means it's more of the way they created it issue than a staff issue. And that problem is the word campaign, from a fundraising perspective, a lot of times means how it is that we asked for money. But that's not Blackbaud's definition of what it is that they are. Because of that confusion, in Razor's Edge, the appeal is how we ask, and the campaign is the overall umbrella that it falls into. But because of this confusion, a lot of times I see things that should be appeals in the campaign part. And the reason that that can be an issue is a couple of them. First of all, appeals have the ability to report on things that campaigns do not have the ability to report on. Appeals can just flat out do a lot of things that campaigns can't do. They have extra fields and extra things that they can track. On top of that, appeals were built to have a direct connection to mail, so that an appeal is an ask, it's a solicitation, it's the invitation to an event it is that you're sending out. This is what you're sending out. This is how you create that list and send it out. So Quick Letters is how you create a list and send it out. When you create a mailing list using Quick Letters, it will ask you if you want to go back onto a constituent record and track that appeal has been sent. So the generation of the list is done through here. It is adding the appeal that you create here and tracking it back onto the constituent record, which is giving you kind of a connection between the sending it out, tracking that it was sent out, and then as money comes in, tracking that it was received. So an appeal is your ask. It is the solicitation that you are creating. So when we go to analyze how it is that they're doing, we bring over an appeal summary. It's probably the most used dashboard in Razor's Edge is the appeal summary. Now, your appeals, all of them pretty much should have a year associated with them. That's really important. So what that means is that if I'm creating an appeal, it's most likely going to look something like this. 14, annual giving, fall, direct mail. That tells me exactly what it is that we're sending out. The year is crucial, and let me explain why. If you are generating a report, if you've created an appeal, and all of your fall direct mail doesn't have a year in it, and you're always putting it into the same appeal year after year, then you're not reporting on how successful that appeal was. You're reporting on how much money was raised between a specific period of time. Sometimes, if you're a school, someone will make their annual gift. They'll say, it's November. Here's my annual fund gift for 2014, and here's my one for 2015. I'm paying for both of them in advance, right? So you need to be able to apply that gift to an appeal for 14 and to the appeal for 15, both so that you can report each one against its total, but also so that we can prevent ourselves from issuing a letter to them for 15 for a gift that they've already made. Now, if they both made those gifts on the same date, if you're reporting on that information, then both those gifts are going to show up within that date range. That's why a date range doesn't work for that. It works for finance when they say how much money came in between this date and this date. but it doesn't work for appeals when we're trying to run a report generating how successful this appeal was at raising money. Same thing goes for an event. Sometimes money comes in for an event before a fiscal year starts, and we're still chasing people for auction items, sometimes well after a fiscal year is over. So again, it doesn't work sometimes to report based on that fiscal year for that reason alone, and that I think it's answering a completely different question. Okay, so we brought over the appeal with the date range there, and I'm going to ask to see this information as both a table and a graph. Under appeals to include, I'm going to hit select, and I'm going to bring over that appeal. And I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to go here to gift types to include, and again, you're picking and choosing what type of money that you want to count. Remember, this one is a summary dashboard, so if you include both pledges and pledge payments, it will divide the money up into separate columns and won't be double counting that money. Okay. And under columns to show, I'm going to hit select, and I'm going to bring over these fields as I want to see all of these different things. I'm going to say okay. And okay again. Again, I'm not including a date range because the appeal itself is going to determine what the date range is. We want any gifts that have come in to that appeal regardless of when it is that they've been received. And then I'm going to hit okay again, and it's going to load. Okay, so you can see the capital campaign dashboard disappeared. Where did it go? It went here. So this is where you go to see all of the dashboards that you've created and to flip back and forth between the ones that you want. So we're in the annual giving one now. I'm going to zoom this panel up to look at it full size. Okay, and I can see here it looks very similar to the capital campaign. But let me point out the places that it's different. So you've got your appeal, your goal, your amount received, your variance, number of donors, number of gifts, average gift. Up until there, it's the same. But appeals have the ability to track expenses, which help to generate your cost per dollar raised. So this is a real big benefit of having your appeals in there as appeals. And again, it is another reason why each appeal needs to be a separate appeal with a separate year, because the expenses connected to the one for 14 are different than the ones that were connected to 15. And if you at all need to do a comparison, you can't, because every time you go to add in the expenses, they will override the expenses from the year before. So you can't do a compare and contrast that is the same, because you keep overriding information from one to another. Same thing goes for number of donors and number of gifts. Those keep being updated for the current year that you're in, which is again why you have to look at each appeal as a separate ask. So there are your expenses, there are your cost per dollar raised. The number solicited, if when you're using a quick letter to create that list, is automatically calculating exactly the number of people that have received that mailing and filling that in here, which is giving you your percentage donated. And then here is your total committed. So I'm going to minimize this here. And I'm going to go over, so I'm going to hit customize again. And the next one that I build is just going to show you how you can use an appeal summary, but use it in a bunch of different ways to give you different results. So I'm going to bring over another appeal summary. This time, I'm going to build a comparison. So I'm doing exactly the same thing that I did before, except when I get to appeals to include, this time, instead of bringing over one appeal, I'm going to bring over all of my fall appeals. So there's 2008, 9, 10, 11, 13, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Again, it's samples, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I'm bringing these ones over, and again, I'm going to hit columns to show, hit select, check all. So now I have a multi-year, when I hit OK, I have a multi-year comparison report on that fall appeal. So that's the table and the graph, and this is the detail of how we did each year. Are we going up? Are we going down? Has it stayed the same? It's really good for when you're reporting coming out of a recession, because it lets you know where you were before the recession. You can literally see the dip and then see if you're starting to climb back out, and when it is that you're at a level that was the same as before it happened. So that's why these comparisons are so great, and that they should be easy to build within Razor's Edge. I'm going to minimize that. Again, if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask them as we go through, and once I read them, I'll go ahead and answer that question. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat part that you want. So I'm going to customize this one. I'm going to hit edit to go back into it, and this time, instead of bringing over the same the fall appeal, instead I'm going to bring over all of the appeals for this year. So now, instead of doing a comparison, I'm doing a full year summary. So I'm bringing over everything that is a 14-15. If this was annual giving, I would probably remove like the proposals. But again, if you wanted to just give somebody a summary on everything that you're doing, I would bring them all over. Bring them all over. Columns to show, hit select. Check all, and OK. And now what this is giving me is every appeal that we're doing this year. Oh, hold on, sorry. Every appeal that we're doing this year and where we're at on each one of them. Now, what I do is I like to build my appeals, all of them, right at the beginning of the year and automatically put into a dashboard like this. This way, whoever I'm building it for so that they can analyze it, they just hit refresh. And for the appeals that haven't started yet, there's zeros next to all of them. And for the ones that have started, then the money is starting to flow into them. Once we get to a time when those appeals start to fill in, every time you hit refresh, money will start flowing into the appeals where there is revenue. But what it's doing is it's showing you, giving you the ability to analyze how each individual appeal did, but always giving you a summary of where it is that you are at right now. So you have a question, let me just see. Yes, you can do that for funds as well. You can do that for funds as well, except funds, like campaigns, don't have the ability to track anything after this point. They can't track expenses, cost per dollar raised, number solicited, percentage donated, but they can everything else. If you're just looking for goal, amount received, variance, total committed, it can do all of that through an appeal, through a fund report, which is, for example, if I was building a capital campaign one, and the capital campaign is made up of 5 funds that we have goals for that need to be reached, and that's exactly what I would be doing, is to bringing over a dashboard panel specifically into that capital campaign one, looking at the individual 5 funds, or maybe they're just all your scholarships, or and they'll let you know where you are to date on each one of them. Now, in an appeal, part of the beauty of being able to, oh, you're welcome, of being able to drill down into it here, let me just show you where some of these things are. This is the appeal. This is the overall goal, so you can adjust that goal from here. This is where you can add in packages. We're going to get to that in a minute. And this is where your attributes and expenses are. So you can put your expenses right here, and that's what's calculating that information. So both events, if you have the event module, and the appeals have the ability to track expenses, but they're the only 2 parts of the program that do. So let's talk a little bit about packages. Can I see a show of hands of how many of you are using packages connected to appeals currently? Okay, a few of you. Let me just explain what they are. And it's hard to explain because packages can be used in different ways. So they mean different things depending on the type of report it is that the type of thing it is that you're analyzing, or the type of appeal it is that you're sending out. So let me give you an example of the most common ones. And I'm going to do that by, sorry, I brought over the wrong one, deleting that. I'm going to bring over an appeal package response dashboard. And in it, I'm going to double click on it, I'm going to bring over a few appeals that have different kinds of packages. So I'm going to bring over the 14 fall direct mail. I'm going to bring over the spring direct mail. I'm going to bring over the gala. I think I'm going to bring over the other gala too, because that one had more information in it. So just give you an example of what it would look like for an event, what it would look like for direct mail. And they can look for direct mail differently depending on what type of nonprofit it is that you are. So I'm going to hit OK, and then OK to load it. We'll take a look at them. So the first one I'm going to bring up is packages connected to an appeal, an ending appeal, if you were, say, a school. So I'm going to look at the spring direct mail here. So what a package is a package is a segmentation of an appeal, which means that this appeal that I'm sending out is the 2014 annual giving spring appeal that we're sending out. Okay, and what it's saying is that we are not sending the same ask to everyone. We're sending different letters to different groups of people, depending, in this case, on who it is that they are. So here, what it's doing is it's saying, I've got a letter specific to board members, one for current parents, one for alumni, one for past parents, one for grandparents. Again, when you create this mailing list through Quick Letters, it is creating those lists, filling the number of donors, the number of people solicited, the number of gifts, and giving you a breakdown of how much you raised for the appeal in total, but how much came in from each one of those specific areas. So those are packages connected to that type of an appeal. Now, say you are like a hospital or another type of nonprofit. They sometimes break theirs up, not by who it is that they are, but either how much somebody has given or how currently or recently it is that they have given. So, for example, they have acquisition, prospects, people who've never given before, they're getting one letter. Current donors are getting another letter. Libunts, people who gave last year but haven't repeated their gift yet this year, they're getting one letter. And lapsed donors, people who gave in the past but haven't given recently, they're getting another specific letter to them. So again, this is helping us track our rate of response of how we're doing from each one of those areas. We can set up packages to be anything that we want them to be. So these are just two examples of how it is they've broken them down. But all it's doing is saying, this is the total. I want to see a breakdown like this. Most of the times, because I'm asking in different ways. To me, for direct mail, packages mean I'm not sending out one letter to everyone. I'm sending out different letters to different groups of people, and these are the different types of letters it is that I'm sending out. Now I'm going to track how successful those different types of letters are, and this is my ability to do that. Any questions on those packages for direct mail before I go into the event one? Oh, okay. So now, my philosophy when you're tracking packages for a special event is completely different. Why? Because I worked a lot in special events, and the one report that doesn't exist in Razor's Edge, even if you have the event module, is a report so basic that is completely infuriating that there is no way, that there is no corresponding report in the system to let you analyze it, which is, how much money did we raise from this event? I can get a total right here. This is the gala. This is how much money we've raised from the gala. Why is there no money in that so far? Oh, okay. Let me just change the date range here. Customize. Let me see if that's better. Okay, there you go. So, which tells me how much money did we raise from that event. An appeal will give me that total. But there is no report in Razor's Edge, even with the event module, that will give you a breakdown of how much money I raised from sponsorship levels, how much money I raised from the auction, from all of those different things. So those are my packages of an appeal. I see the packages of my appeal as a financial revenue breakdown of how money was raised for an event. So I've got my different levels of sponsorship, my auction purchases, my auction donations, ticket sales, individual, couple, any donations made on site, all of the different revenue streams. So this tells me how well did we do on the event, how much money raised from those specific areas. Also, when I go onto a specific person who purchased a ticket record or who was a sponsor, now by looking at the appeal and packages, I know exactly what it is that money was for. I know exactly what it is that they bought and what the breakdown was. And as you can see, it's a really easy to view report that you can analyze at any time just by hitting refresh. So this is one of my favorite ones because it's a workaround to a report that should exist and doesn't, but the end result is really clean, easy to read, and incredibly necessary because we get asked for this all the time, and I don't like to work in Excel when all I can do is hit refresh. So that to me is a really big one. One other annual giving dashboard, and again, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them, and I'll answer them in a minute. So I'm going to do one more regarding annual giving, and I'm just going to bring this over, although it doesn't necessarily have to be for annual giving. I'm going to bring over under the gift section one called a donor giving analysis. Double click here to open it up. And I'm going to say, show me information for this fiscal year. And that's it. I'm not even going to break it down by any kind of campaign. I'm just going to look at everything because, again, it's a sample. It doesn't have very good information in it. So let's just see what this looks like. Drill this down here. Okay, this donor giving analysis looking at this full fiscal year and saying, what are the number of repeat, increased, new, recovered, and decreased donors that I had in this fiscal year so far? It's not giving me the detail of what they were for, although most of these are reports. It won't get one report that shows me everything in there, but I can run an increase-decrease report. I can run a brand new donor report. I can run a consecutive years giving report, and a SciBunt report. So these are all reports that exist in the system. They're just not one report that you can generate, and they're not dashboards either. But the dashboard gives me kind of a summary of where everything is at. So again, that was under the gift section, and it's called a donor giving analysis dashboard. So that's another good one there. So again, how many queries have we built so far? Zero queries, which is exactly how many queries I want to have to build in a day. 0 queries. I don't like queries. I would say my gift as a trainer is that I'm exceptionally lazy. I do not work harder than I have to. Because why would we? Like, we have time to do that. So let me see. These are my dashboards. Any questions about any of the dashboards that we've built so far before we move to the reports part of the system? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to move to reports. And I'm going to build some of the reports that are here, some of the ones that I like, but I want you guys to start thinking about requests, things that you want or need, and you want to know if they exist in Razor's Edge. Start thinking about that because I'm going to build a few reports and then I'm going to open it up to questions and requests for different things, and hopefully you guys will have some things that you want or need and that you want to know if they're there, and we can go ahead and use them as examples of things to build, because reports and dashboards are the hardest parts of Razor's Edge to learn. Why? Because it's learning how, there's so many of them. They can be manipulated in so many different ways. And learning how to use them it's kind of like translating. You tell me you want a report that shows this, and I'm like, oh, that's a demographic and statistical report sorted by this, right? The only way that you learn that is by going in and playing with the different options. And also, for you guys, it's if you ask me questions, I can go in and show you which reports can do different things, and that's so much more beneficial than just kind of giving you a summary of what each report can do, because there's just so many different ways they can be used. It's not practical. So I'm in my reports, and I'm right over here. So I have a question here. Hold on. Can you track a designated gift or a portion of the gift in the appeal or package area? Yes. Does that mean? Let me just make sure I'm understanding that question. A designated gift would be tracked through fund. Is that right? Are you tracking your designated gifts through fund? So um, funds track where the money is going. They are either unrestricted revenue or the name of the program or department that that money is being restricted to. Are you using your funds like that to track where the money is if it's designated, what it's designated to? Okay, so 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 which part of it do you want the um, are you? I'm trying to see if are you asking whether you can split an appeal so that if somebody gives to more than a gift to an appeal that's going into more than one area, can it be split so that it's divided into more than one of those areas? Because if that's what you're asking, the question is yes. An appeal can be split. So, for example, if somebody gives you for an event a check for $1,000 and 500 of that is for table sponsorship and 500 of that is just a flat out donation, then yes, the that can be split. So let me see. You have a table sponsorship at the gala, and they want proceeds designated there to go. Okay, so it's getting a little off, but let me just show you how it is that you would code that. That's just a way that you would code a specific gift. That just means okay. That means that the gift, when you enter it in, would be campaign as events. The fund would be the name of the scholarship, and the appeal would be the name of the gala, and the package would be sponsorship, the level of sponsorship that it was at. Now, say they said, like I said before with my other example, one of those gifts is a sponsorship, and then part of that gift is just a flat out donation. Then it's the same events. Um, if it's all going to scholarship, and the appeal is the gala, but the package, when I hit split gift here, I have the ability to break that down. So for example, if the fund, part of that is being broken down, so it's underwriting and scholarship, then the package would be donation and sponsorship. So again, a gift can be split between multiple areas. Okay. And then it reports back divided into those areas as well. Again, this is one of those areas where it's really important that you're using reports and dashboards and mail to generate the reports and things that are associated with it, because when you're using split gifts, a lot of people don't know that when you pull queries out of the system, under the gift section, you have to pull the split amounts. Otherwise, you're getting the individual totals combined into one. And that's why the reports through queries don't look like they're working, because really a query isn't meant to view, it's just meant to kind of narrow. And then you got to know exactly which fields to pull out to give you what it is that you want to see. But I mean, there's very rarely something you want to do that the system won't do for you. It'll do it. You just have to do it from the right place. Okay, sorry. So I'm going to go back to the reports. And okay, now there's usually one report in the database that I know absolutely everybody is using. Usually it is the only report everybody is using. And that report is a financial report called a gift detail summary report. Right there. Everybody's using the gift detail summary report, which is great. It's an absolutely fantastic report. But the problem is that sometimes you ask a question, and maybe that's not the best report to give you the answer for what it is that you want to be able to see. Um, it's great for finance. It's great for finance reconciliations. It's great for a summary and detail of a specific event or something that you're raising. Sometimes it's the perfect report that you want. But say somebody asks for a board member giving history report, okay? Then instead of running a gift detail summary, I would probably run a constituent giving history. And let me delete the one that's there and rebuild it. So just to summarize where I'm at, I'm in reports, I'm in financial reports, and I'm in a report called a constituent giving history. And I'm going to hit new to create a new one. Okay, now the first thing I do is usually give a report a name. Why? Because anyone who's used Razor's Edge can tell you that it has a tendency to freeze or close or do all of those different things. And at least if I start off by saving it, I've got something saved when it does. Board history, board giving history. Okay, and I do let other people modify the report. Otherwise, when it needs to be adjusted, if I'm signed in under a different name or someone else needs to run it, they can't. And that's why I have not one board giving history report, but like 1,000 under different people's names. So I do let other people modify it. I build reports, and then I think my job is to let other people know how to manipulate them to get what it is that they need. So that we can work using templates as much as possible. So board giving history, first thing I'm going to do is select the date range. So if they say I want a board giving report for this fiscal year, that I'm picking this fiscal year. Here under soft credits, I am going to include soft credits because board members a lot of times give through foundations, employee giving societies or foundations, or through the United Way, and I want to make sure that I'm getting a complete history of their giving in this report. So I'm going to include both. I am not including board members that are deceased, although deceased board members should be former board members, so hopefully there wouldn't have been any on there anyway. Then I'm going to go to filters. Why am I going to filters? Because we need board members, and I don't use query for board members when all I need to do is go filters, constituency code, include selected, board members. This is another reason why it's important that you use the current and the former and not the dates to and from, because as you can see here, there's nothing to filter by a date range. So if I want to report for all of my board members, then I need to be able to pull them this way. And if I wanted a report of all my former board members, I should be able to pull them the same way. But I would never be able to get a report of former board member if I was using an end date, because it is, the second you put the end date, it's eliminating them from that report. So board members here, gift types to include. Again, I pick and choose the type of money. I'm just going to include everything here. Nothing you need to do in attributes. Columns, tab number 5 is your columns. This is one of the reasons why this is such a great report, is that it's really flexible in what fields or columns it allows you to bring over, so that if you wanted to bring over, say, the appeal and the package that they gave to, instead of the fund that they gave to, you could do that, or the reference field, or anything else you want to be able to see that's on the gift. Then you can bring that and adjust the names of the columns or the column widths. It's very flexible. Now, the individual and the organization address tabs, they appear in almost every single report in Razor's Edge. Basically, they control whether or not you're going to see somebody's name and contact information on a report, but they're not consistent. They don't all default to yes, or they don't all default to no. Some of them default to yes, some of them default to no. I don't like to see name and contact information on a report because it makes it 10 times longer than it needs to. So unless I absolutely want a report that has it on it, then I always go here to check that this says no. Or if I want it, I change it to address and phone information. But it's in your best interest to go always and check them. Because, again, if we ran like an alumni giving history report with addresses, it would be 10,000 pages long. So just good to always double check that. Now, the format tab. The most important information in every report that you're ever going to run, and that's a report, any reports that are here in Razor's Edge, are here in the Format tab, here under the Detail section. Because, of course, the most important fields of any report you want to bury on the absolute last tab of the report, halfway down in a place you would never find if you had accidentally stumbled upon it. Like, it is so absurd where they put this information that I can't even tell you. And I'm completely convinced that this is why people don't use reports. Because how would you know you had to go here? Okay? If there's a place in the report where it's going to allow you to manipulate it or change it in any way other than the columns part, which is only appears in a couple of reports, this is where you're going to be able to do it. So it's important to check this in every single report that you go to. This is a really good example. Why? Because look at what's here. Include non-givers on this report. This is a perfect example of where it's just as important to see which board members are not giving as it is to see which board members are giving. And the options in every report that you go to are different. So you always, always, always want to check the details of every report that you go into. Again, it's going to allow you to manipulate it in some way. This is probably where it's going to let you do that. You also want to check, most reports in Razor's Edge don't have a columns tab. They'll have an optional columns field that appears around here. So you always want to check the format optional columns to see if it's there, and if it is there, if there's any additional fields that you want to move over. So I'm going to check this, and I'm going to hit preview. Okay, so this is going to show me board members have not given, and then the board members that haven't. For the ones that have, it gives me their gifts and then a subtotal. So for example, right there, this person here has a pledge. So it's going to show me the amount of the pledge, what it was to, and what's the balance of that pledge so far. So have they made any payments towards it? And where is it? So it's a really good overview of someone's giving to get a complete picture of what it is that they've done. And clicking here will let you go directly to that person's page or section as well. So another thing that you can do here is, right now this is giving me board member giving for this year. Say that I wanted board member giving for all time. I would just change the date to all dates and hit preview. So now this is everybody who's a board member, a complete picture of what their giving has been like to date. Okay, and say you wanted board members have given to the capital campaign. Then I would go to filters and say campaign, include capital, and that would show me all board members and what their gifts to the capital campaign have been. So see, you have one report and you just need to know how to filter it to get at what it is that you want. There. But the difference between this report, a constituent giving history, and a gift detail and summary is that a constituent giving history gives you a summary or a breakdown by individual. So whenever your emphasis or focus is on the person who's giving, what they've given, and then a summary per person, then you want to run a constituent giving history. A gift detail summary is really just looking at all of the gifts, like say for an appeal or a campaign. It doesn't really, I mean, it's going to show you who gave them to it, but the emphasis isn't on the who, it's on the what was given to something specific. Okay. Any questions about that report at all, or about reports in general yet? Okay. So now there are a ton of reports in Razor's Edge. Again, feel free to ask any questions that you have as we're going through. There are tons of reports in Razor's Edge, so let's narrow this down a bit. Where are the best reports in Razor's Edge? That one's easy. There are your analytical reports. Every single one of the analytical reports is good. It's a good report. It's going to give you really interesting information that's there. So it's they're really good. Let me just go through some of them that are there. I've got a question here. If you're asking for soft credits to apply to both, are you going to get double credits? You know what? That would depend on the type of report that you're running. Now, when I run a board giving history report, think of it this way: the board member is a board member, but the company that he gives through doesn't have a constituency code of board member, so the company isn't showing up on that report. When I ask it to soft credit both, it's giving me the board member and any he's giving through the company. So it's not double counting that report in that instance because the company itself doesn't match the criteria to be in the report. So I'm just getting one picture of exactly what I wanted to see. Say you were running a report for annual giving, like your annual report listing, cumulative giving. And I say apply soft credits to both. Now I'm getting him, Robert Hernandez, say showing up for the money that he gave and credited for the money that was given through his company. And his company is also showing up on that report for the company that they have, for the money that they have given as well. So if both the company and the individual match the criteria for whatever it is that you're asking for in that report, then they are going to both appear. And whoever gave the main gift, it is double counting. But because an annual report is looking at giving recognition, we don't mind including soft credits because it's just a recognition. It's not a financial report. But I usually don't include soft credits when I'm running a flat out financial report for finance because in that case, yes, it does double count that revenue and we don't want to be able to see that. So it's about learning when it is that what's the question you're asking and when do you want to see those soft credits in that type of report and in what type of reports do you absolutely not want to see soft credits. Like in financial reports is one place where we never want to see soft credits. And how people are applying soft credits and how they're using them is a whole other story because I just think Razor's Edge is such a misunderstood program. And I think sometimes we add soft credits on things to track relationships between people, and that's not what a soft credit is meant to be used for. And the second that we start using it that way, you try running reports, that's when all your numbers are skewed and they don't show up properly, and we start transferring things into Excel and using them that way. So it's a complicated answer to that question because in some reports you want them and in some reports you don't. Okay, so your analytical reports that are here. I'm going to go through how many of you need to run like a SciBunt report, like to find your lapsed donors, or a LIBunt report, which is people who gave last year but haven't given this year. Is that a report that any of you need to be able to run? Okay, let's go through over. You run a LIBunt report and a SciBunt report pretty much exactly the same way. So let's go through how to run one of those. That is under analytical, a report called SciBunt. SciBunt just means that every time you click on a report, if you go down here to the bottom, it gives you a description and even samples of what that report will look like. So a SciBunt is some year, but unfortunately not this. So people who have given in the past, but haven't given within a date range. Whenever you're creating any report at Razor's Edge, it's imperative that you read this properly because half the time we're picking a date range, we're not exactly sure what it is that it's asking. So this is saying, include constituents who gave the gift, but not within this date range. So if I want anybody who gave in the past, but hasn't given for the last 3 or 4 years, then my range is the last 3 or 4 years. I'm saying anybody who hasn't given a gift between 2010, January 1st, 2010, and December 31st, 14. So they've given a gift in the past, but not within the last 4 years. I can choose whether or not in this one I want to see soft credits. I probably do because, again, if they gave, but they gave through the United Way or through a different company, that's how they're being coded, then you want to make sure you're including that so that it's not showing them, having them show up as not having given when they really have given. And I'm going to include it to everything. I'm going to go here and make sure that that's not including, yeah, see, that's what I mean. None and none. Okay, and then I'm going to format, and I'm going to details to see if there's anything I want to change here. Here it's just asking me whether I want to change the detail order Do I want them alphabetically listed by last name or by gift amount? I want them sorted by gift amount so I can see the top donors that we have lost first. And then there's a good example. There's your optional columns. And I want to bring over the total amount given. And I'm going to hit preview. And that's going to give me a report of my donors, the last gift that they gave. This is why I'm over the total given. Because what this shows me is that, for example, this person here made a big gift, but they gave it in 1999, and that was the only gift they ever gave. As opposed to this person here, who gave multiple times in the past and then stopped for some reason in 2007. So a lot of times I can tell that this person had a bigger connection to us because they were a donor for over multiple times. They give us many gifts, and it gives us information for what, if we're following up with phone calls or to see what it is that happened, get a bigger picture of what it is that took place. So I'm going to close out of this one. That's a SciButton report. Any questions about the SciButton reports at all? Okay, so I'm going to do one more report, and then we'll open it up to questions that people have. So hopefully you've got some questions saved up. What is another report that's good? The consecutive years report is always a really interesting one. I also think I just think this is a really interesting report. So I'm just going to pull this one here. And again, this is a sample database, so it's not very interesting in the sample database, but when you run it on your own database, it's fascinating for a couple of different reasons. So I'm just going to choose the date range here. So this is going to be anybody who gave, let's see what we get if I do last fiscal year. Last fiscal. Okay, I'm going to include soft credits. I'm going to check these two here and make sure they say none. And then I'm going to go to format, and I'm going to go to detail, and it's going to say minimum number of consecutive years. So I'm going to say they have to have given at least 3 consecutively. Then I'm going to go to sort break and say sort the report by the number of consecutive years that they're given. And I even want a subtotal or sub break in the report by that number. Okay, so again, it's not very impressive in my in the sample database, but usually when you go to someone, it's absolutely fascinating to see. You go right to the bottom and see that in this database, 15 years in a row without missing a year is the number of consecutive years that this person is giving. And then what I love is this, the average gift that they've given per year, because there's some people that the average gift, especially those people whose average gift per year is under $200 a year, they fly completely under the radar. But that person could have been given for 15, 20, sometimes 30 years in a row without missing a year. That identifies a couple of different things. First of all, they're prime candidates for a life insurance policy. They are people who, if you're given for over 5 or 6 years in a row, especially when the 5 or 6 years that we're counting right now would be during a recession, which means that even in times of a recession, these people did not stop giving their gift every single year. That means that these people have an ongoing commitment to your organization. But the amount they give every year leads me to believe that they probably don't have the capacity to give one big gift. So they're probably not that great a candidate for something like a bequest. But they have a real interest and connection to your organization, which means that if we transfer their annual gift over to something that was like a life insurance policy gift, then their overall gift to the organization would be huge at the end of it. And if we had converted a lot of these people halfway through, it would have, when we move forward, it would have been a much bigger gift. But it can be used for a lot of different things as well. For recognition, we recognize a lot of times in annual reports donors who have been giving who give large amounts, but sometimes we don't recognize donors that have been giving consistently over a long period of time. And that is something that in annual report listings or on the website, I see listed out more and more often nowadays as a way to recognize those donors for their involvement as well. This is also something that's really interesting when you're coding somebody on participation and level of involvement, and that goes a long way in pointing that part out. So that is a consecutive years giving report. Again, those are all analytical reports in Raiser's Edge. It's another good one. Anybody have any? Okay, oh, I've got a request here. Is there a report for total giving that may not be consecutive? I think I know what you're asking, and the answer to that is yes, but not a. The easiest way to answer that question is to show you how I can get that report, because it's the only way that I can get that report. So if I was going to go, let me go on to Mr. Sidney Crosby over here. I think he's a big giver. Okay. And if I'm in his record and I go to view summary, gift summary on his record, then it generates a report here that shows me for him average, median, total number of gifts, total number of years, and there's the number of years that he's been giving consecutively. So I think that's what you're asking for, the total number of years that he's giving, as opposed to the consecutive years that he's been giving, because this means he has to have not missed any in between those periods of times. And some people don't give consistently at the same time every year. But the answer to that is that I can get it individually on a summary like this, but I can't get it. In a report like I just ran, where it's giving me a list of everybody and their total years of giving on it. So I can't do it. I can't do it that way. But this is a good one, and this one can be printed as well. Okay. Any? I've got a question here from Sharon, but that's a membership report, and there's not a lot of membership organizations on here, so I'll answer that one last. Just because it's only going to apply to membership organizations. So is there anyone else who's got a question about any types of reports that they want to know if they can pull from Raiser's Edge, or if a type of report that you need to pull? Most reports in Raiser's Edge exist. It's just a matter of knowing where to go to find them. And like I said, we haven't built one query yet in the almost 2 hours that we've been in this session. So there is so much that you can get in Raiser's Edge without having to pull that at all. And I mean, the same thing goes for mail. There are ways to create mailing lists in Raiser's Edge where you're not building the complicated queries that you need to be able to create them. And in the long run, you're so much better off kind of learning how to use those parts of the program rather than to do them that hard way. So any questions about the reports or dashboards, or just any requests? Okay. Let me see if I can. I'm going to go over one more report. It's a basic one, but it's one that took me forever to figure out how to build. It's a profile list and directory. And say that I wanted a contact list for board members. Okay, I'm going to profiles, lists, and directories, and I'm going to constituent directory. And I'm going to hit new. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to filters, and I'm going to go to constituency, code, selected, board. Okay, and then I'm going to go to individual address, and see here where it says print two addresses on report, settings for first address, settings for second address. The settings for the first address is exactly right. It is address, and it's set to the preferred. When I go to the settings for the second address, I'm going to choose here phone, all connected to the preferred address. Then I'm going to go to Format. I'm just going to call it Board Directory. Detail. I can include spouse name if I want to, but I'm definitely going to get it to group by first initial. Actually, I'll run it not grouped by first initial, and then I'll run it grouped by first initial, just so that you can see the difference. So I'm going to hit preview. And this gives me a contact list for board members. So the name of the board member, address information, all of the contact information they have on their record. There. Now, again, if I close it and I switch that to group by first initial and hit preview, what changes is just the way that it looks, which is there. So it's more like a directory. You can go to the letter and it shows you everybody under that letter. So that is a contact list or a directory report. And it's pretty much the only one in the system that includes all of their contact information, all of the emails, cell phone numbers, and things that that exist on someone's record. So that's a good one there. Okay, I'm gonna answer Sharon's question about membership, but I'm just gonna include some on here. Hold on one second. Copying a link because I never have it handy. Okay. All right, we hold these classes a couple times a month. So here are lists of all of our upcoming classes, and those would include any of the upcoming reports and dashboard classes, which is the free ones that we do. So if you want anyone to sign up for those classes, you can just send them that link and they can click onto it and register for this class on there. Again, we do it a couple of times per month. So I'm just going to answer this question that has to do with membership. The best way to get that report, although I have to say that the dashboards when it comes to membership are a little iffy to say the least, and this sample database is not going to give us a great indication of what it is that we do because it doesn't have great information to it. But that report is probably most easily gotten here in the dashboards part. And if you scroll down, that's a membership dashboard, and that would be a membership summary. Okay, and I'm going to double click on it here, open it, and I'm going to ask for this fiscal. I don't know if we're going to get anything at all. This fiscal year, membership categories to include. You're going to bring over the membership categories. I'm just going to bring all of them because again, we don't have a lot of information here. And then columns to show. Here are your options. So if you wanted to see, I'm going to take these ones. So you wanted to see new, lapsed, dropped, renewals, and totals. Total at end, I don't think. Well, let's see what that looks like. This is probably your best bet here. Although you really do have to go when it comes to membership reports into the system and look at the definitions of what their membership start and renewal dates and things are. But this is the best place to get a summary that's quick and easy to read here. Is that kind of what you were looking for? Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, great. Anybody else have any questions or requests? Anything at all? I'm going to stay on for a few minutes longer if anybody has, again, like I said, any requests or wants me to unmute so they can ask a question. So I'm just going to stay on a bit longer. Otherwise, unless you have a question, thank you so much for participating. I hope you query less as a result of attending the class. And like I said, let me know if you've got any questions at all. Yes. I'm going to stop the recording now. I forgot I was recording. Let me just see here. I was stuck. Uh,